I returned from a work trip to find my sister and her children occupying my apartment. When I asked them to leave, my entire family turned against me. Hello everyone. Today's story will shock you, but first, if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button. The channel's been a bit quiet lately, but your support keeps it going. Let's dive in. I'm a 28-year-old man who's lived in my own apartment for the past 3 years. I've always valued my independence and personal space, working as a software developer. 2 weeks ago, I went on a business trip to meet clients across the country. When I left, everything was normal. My apartment was clean, organized, and exactly how I liked it. But when I got back, everything had changed. Exhausted from travel, I opened my door to find my sister Sarah, 25, and her 3 kids, aged 3, 5, and 7, living in my home. This wasn't just a few bags for a short visit. I'm talking rearranged furniture, toys scattered everywhere, kids' clothes in my guest room, and food in my fridge I definitely didn't buy. For a moment, I thought I'd walked into the wrong apartment. "Oh, you're back," Sarah said casually, stepping out of the bathroom like this was perfectly normal. I stood there, keys in hand, too stunned to respond. "Mom said you'd be home today." As I tried to process what was happening, the kids ran up excited to see their Uncle James. My private sanctuary, my apartment, had been completely taken over. When I finally found my voice, I asked, "What's going on?" Sarah explained she needed a temporary place to stay because of issues with her landlord. Apparently, our parents gave her permission to use my apartment while I was away. She added, "They said you wouldn't care," as if that made it okay. I was furious. No one had called me, no one had texted. No one had thought to ask the person who pays for the place if it was okay to move an entire family in. I called my parents immediately, and their response only fueled my anger. "James, I'm glad Sarah found somewhere to stay," my mom said. Her landlord was being completely unreasonable. When I pointed out they'd let my sister into my apartment without my permission, my dad called me selfish, saying family helps family. He reminded me I had plenty of space and that helping Sarah wouldn't hurt me. I explained that I pay a premium for my apartment because I value privacy. I work from home when I'm not traveling, and having 3 kids around makes that impossible. Plus, my lease explicitly prohibits long-term guests without notifying management. "Well, she's already settled in," they responded. "You can't just kick her out." "But I can." They acted like I was unreasonable for wanting my space back, even though it's my apartment. Sarah told the kids they'd be staying with me for a while, but when I asked what that meant, she was vague. When I pressed her about finding a new place, she said she was looking at options, but hadn't taken any concrete steps. Sarah and her kids have taken over my bedroom and guest room, leaving me to sleep on my own couch. My once tidy apartment is now a mess. Toys are everywhere. I have no privacy, and the kids are loud from early morning to late evening. I've given Sarah 1 week to find another solution. I don't see how it's fair to expect me to give up my home without even asking me, yet my parents think I'm being cruel. Am I being selfish? How do I reclaim my space without sparking a family crisis? Thank you all for the support and comments on my original post. They made me feel less crazy for being upset about this situation. Things have only gotten worse since my last update. After many of you suggested I find out how Sarah got into my apartment, I confronted her. Turns out, she didn't break in. My parents gave her my spare key. Yes, you read that right. My parents, who had my spare key for emergencies only, handed it to Sarah without telling me. When I confronted them, they got defensive. My mom said, "We knew you'd make a big fuss about it." My dad brushed off my concerns, saying I was overreacting and that nothing bad happened. Sarah needed help and you were gone. What were we supposed to do? Let her and the kids be homeless? I pointed out they had other options. Let her stay with them, help her find temporary housing, or at least call me to ask permission before letting her into my home. But the damage was done. While cleaning my apartment, I discovered several damaged or missing items. A broken pair of expensive noise-canceling headphones, stains on my couch, a signed baseball missing from its display case, and my PlayStation with 3 games gone. Someone drew on my bedroom wall with markers. When I asked Sarah about it, she got defensive, claiming she didn't know about the PlayStation or baseball. The headphones were probably already broken, and the stains and wall drawings were just kids being kids. My high-end sheets, bought specifically for better sleep, are stained with what looks like juice or Kool-Aid. Sarah's response? "They'll wash out. Stop being so materialistic. This isn't just about privacy anymore. It's about respect for my property and boundaries." I found out the kids had been sleeping in my bed while I was away. I've told Sarah the 1-week deadline still stands, and I've made it clear to my parents they'll never have access to my apartment again. I've changed the locks. I paid for it myself, though my landlord offered to cover half after I explained the situation. Now, I'm the villain for wanting my space back and being upset about my damaged or missing belongings. But I'm standing my ground. This is my home. My parents are giving me the silent treatment, and Sarah's telling family members I'm throwing her and the kids out onto the street. I've offered to help Sarah find a new place and even pay for a security deposit, but I'm not budging on the deadline. These are my belongings, and I have every right to be upset. I'll update again at the end of the week. I wish I had better news. It's been 4 days since my last update. The missing PlayStation and games. Sarah lent them to her current boyfriend without asking me. The signed baseball, one of the kids took it outside to play with, and it's now lost somewhere in the neighborhood park. I did a thorough inventory of my apartment, and found the damage and missing items are worse than I thought. My desk drawer, where I keep important documents, had a small lockbox with $500 in emergency cash, now empty. When I confronted Sarah, she admitted she borrowed it because she was short on cash and promised to pay me back soon, but she had no timeline. I sent a detailed list of missing and damaged items, totaling nearly $2,000 to Sarah and my parents, demanding reimbursement. Their responses were predictable. Sarah said she doesn't have that kind of money right now, and my parents accused me of being petty and nickel-and-diming my sister during a tough time. "Where are we supposed to go?" Sarah asked in front of the kids, making the youngest cry. I've since learned more about her housing situation. Contrary to what my parents implied, she wasn't homeless. She was evicted from her last apartment for months of unpaid rent, despite my parents bailing her out financially. Everyone expects me to fix her cycle of irresponsibility. The situation in the apartment has gotten worse. Sarah, seemingly in retaliation for my insistence she leave, has stopped cleaning up after the kids. Toys are everywhere. Dishes are piled in the sink, and the bathroom is unrecognizable. I've tried setting boundaries by locking my home office door during the day, but the kids bang on it and yell, disrupting my work calls. Sarah does nothing to redirect them or respect my work schedule. Last night, things escalated when I came home with takeout for myself. Sarah's boyfriend, whom I'd only met twice, was lounging on my couch, drinking my beer, acting like he owned the place. When I objected, Sarah accused me of being controlling, saying I have no right to dictate her social life. I reminded her I'm the legal tenant and decide who's allowed in my home. After a heated argument, her boyfriend left, but not before calling me disloyal to my own family. Other relatives, 2 aunts, an uncle, and even my grandmother, have called, urging me to prioritize family and be more understanding of Sarah's situation. I've spoken to my landlord, who's been surprisingly supportive. He confirmed that having undeclared residents violates my lease, but said he'd be lenient given the circumstances. He also warned that formal eviction proceedings might be necessary if Sarah refuses to leave. I'm hoping it doesn't come to that, but I'm preparing for it. 3 days until the deadline. I'll update again after it passes. As many of you predicted, Sarah made no effort to leave or find new housing as the deadline approached. Instead, she claimed she knew her rights and that I couldn't evict her without proper notice despite not being a legal tenant. After consulting my landlord and a lawyer friend, I gave Sarah a formal written notice to vacate within 30 days, delivered in person and via certified mail to avoid any confusion. Her response? She laughed and said, "Good luck with that. I'm not going anywhere." My parents were furious when they learned about the notice. My dad yelled over the phone, accusing me of tearing the family apart and saying he raised me better. My mom called, crying, saying she couldn't believe her son was putting paperwork over family. They refused to take Sarah and the kids in. Then, Sarah's ex-husband, the kid's father, contacted me. Revealing an unexpected twist, Sarah had told him the kids were staying with my parents, not in my apartment. He was unhappy with the situation and concerned about the kids' living conditions. He'd been seeking more custody anyway, and after hearing the full story, offered to take the kids full-time until Sarah finds stable housing. When Sarah found out I spoke to her ex, she lost it, accusing me of going behind her back to take her kids away. Her hostile behavior made me feel unsafe in my own home. I've temporarily moved in with a friend while still paying rent on my apartment. Yesterday, my landlord called about a noise complaint from my unit. When he investigated, he found Sarah, her kids, her boyfriend, and 2 of her friends living there, an entirely unauthorized group. This was the final straw for him. He's now fully supporting formal eviction proceedings against Sarah as an unauthorized occupant. Because she's established residency, we have to follow legal procedures, but my landlord's lawyer is pushing to expedite the process. I've told Sarah I won't pursue legal action for the damages and stolen items if she leaves before the eviction is finalized. Otherwise, I'll sue her for the full amount in small claims court. My parents, no longer angry, are now trying to negotiate. They offered to pay for a 2-week hotel stay for Sarah to avoid an eviction on her record if I dropped the proceedings. I declined, knowing 2 weeks would likely turn into another last-minute crisis with the same demands. The extended family is now divided. Some relatives privately support me, understanding my position, while others still paint me as the selfish one tormenting my sister and her kids. I've documented everything: the state of my apartment, the unauthorized residence, the missing items, and all communications. Despite family pressure, my lawyer friend assures me I'm on solid legal ground. The most shocking outcome is how this has changed my relationship with my parents. I always knew they enabled Sarah, but it's stunning how much they've disregarded my rights and boundaries. I've realized this has been a lifelong pattern. My parents let Sarah wreak havoc, and I'm expected to tolerate it without complaint. Breaking that cycle is both heartbreaking and liberating. I'll post a final update once this is resolved. It's been 2 months since my last update, and I'm finally back in my own apartment. The situation is resolved, but it's come at a significant cost to family ties. First, the practical outcome. Sarah and her unauthorized guests were evicted from my apartment. The process took longer than expected due to court delays, but the sheriff served the eviction notice about 6 weeks after my last post. Sarah wasn't there. She moved out with her belongings 2 days before the scheduled eviction. My apartment was in awful condition. Beyond the damage I'd already noted, there were new issues: broken furniture, stained carpets, holes in the walls, and what appeared to be deliberate damage to my remaining belongings. My landlord, though sympathetic, required the unit be restored to its original state. I paid for repairs myself, totaling about $3,700, to expedite the process and reclaim my space. Though I'd initially offered to drop the lawsuit if Sarah left voluntarily, the intentional damage changed my stance. I decided to sue her for the missing and damaged items. I won a judgment for $2,150, including the $500 from my lockbox. I don't expect to see the money, but having the judgment on record matters to me. As for family fallout, Sarah is now living with our parents after burning bridges with friends who briefly took her in. Her ex-husband, the kid's father, saw the state of my apartment and successfully petitioned for emergency custody. He's now the primary caregiver, with Sarah having weekend visitation. My relationship with my parents has fundamentally changed. When the eviction was enforced, they seemed to grasp the severity of the situation. My mom called to apologize for how things got out of hand, not for giving Sarah my key or violating my space, just a half-hearted acknowledgement. My dad remains less cooperative, insisting the legal route was unnecessary and that I should have found a way to make it work. He's particularly upset about Sarah's custody loss, which he oddly blames on me rather than her actions. We're speaking again, but it's strained, and we avoid discussing Sarah. I've made it clear they'll never have access to my home again, and I won't bail Sarah out of future crises. The extended family has mostly moved on to other dramas, though I occasionally hear I'm the one who kicked out his own sister. I no longer explain or defend myself. Those who matter understand, and those who don't won't. The best outcome is a newfound appreciation for true friends, my coworkers who tolerated my erratic work schedule, the friend who let me stay with him, and my landlord who stood by me. I've also learned valuable lessons about setting and enforcing boundaries. For years I was expected to conform to a family dynamic where Sarah's needs always came first. Breaking that cycle was painful but necessary. I no longer feel guilty for protecting my time, space, and property. I haven't spoken directly to Sarah since the eviction. She sent one text accusing me of ruining her life and taking her kids, which I didn't respond to. From family grapevine, I hear she's causing new drama at our parents' house and looking for her next way out of trouble. Though this ordeal was exhausting and sometimes heartbreaking, I'm confident I made the right choices. My apartment is my sanctuary again. My work has stabilized, and I've set a clear precedent that no one, not even family, will take advantage of me. Thank you to everyone who supported and encouraged me through this. Your validation kept me grounded during the worst of the family pressure. Sometimes, you have to be the bad guy when everyone else's idea of good means sacrificing your boundaries, space, and dignity.